So I'm at the fmops.ai website, and we can see a number of things have changed since the last update. We still have our one-line integration in both Python as well as TypeScript, but now instead of signing in with your token, you sign in with an actual account. Once you click the sign in button, you're redirected to our identity and access management portal. Here I'm going to register for a new account. Let's call this test user. Now that we're logged in, we can take this one line to compute our OpenAI API key hash. After you've saved this, click on dashboards. We'll use the private tenant. Now that we're on the home page, if we click over and look at our roles and identities, we'll notice we have a role which allows us to access anything associated with this OpenAI key we've linked to our account. Let's go ahead and add an index pattern. Click on Create an Index Pattern, and for our index pattern, I'm going to use the name asterisks for a wildcard, dash, the OpenAI token that I've used. We'll notice that there are 3 data streams that match this pattern. We're going to use all 3 for today. For the time field, I'll use the @timestamp attribute, and I'll click Create Index Pattern. Once this index pattern is created, I'll set this as the default. Before I head over to the Discover tab, now we can see that the default index pattern has already been selected. If I change the range filter to longer, there are records from earlier today, and we're able to go and inspect choices, request message, the time to first chunk, the time to completion. To create dashboards, I'm going to navigate to the Dashboards tab. Under here, I'm going to click Create a New Dashboard, and let's create a new visualization. Select a pie chart, and I'll use the index that I created earlier. This pie chart is to look at status codes of requests. Select Split Slices, select an aggregation over terms, and the field that I'm going to aggregate over is my status code. Hit Update, and we'll notice we got 162 200s within this time span that we're looking at, and I'll save this one for now and call it Status Codes. Great, our first chart is done. To add a chart that includes status codes over time, I'm going to create a new chart. I'll select the VisBuilder chart type. On the x-axis, since I want this over time, I'm going to put the timestamp there. And for the y-axis, I'm interested in the status code. Here we go. We see from 2 to 230, we had only 200 status codes occurring at these times. I want to change the buckets on the x-axis so that more of these get grouped together. So instead of the minimal interval of seconds, I'm going to set maybe 15 minutes. And there we go. We see that it's now bucketed 15 minutes. Rather than the unique counts, I just want the counts. And there we go. We're able to see that between 2 and 2:15, there were only 63. Between 2:15 and 2:30, 93. Between 2:30 and 2:45, we only had 6 requests come in. This looks good. Let's save this as status codes over time and add it back to the dashboard. Let's say that I was now interested in how long requests were taking. To do this, I'm going to create a new dashboard and use the VisBuilder. I'm interested in knowing the latency over time, so again, I'll put the timestamp on the x-axis. For the y-axis, we have a couple options. If you're doing unstreamed completions, then the time to completion and the time to first chunk are the same. A lot of users use streaming completions, in which case the first chunk can arrive much faster than the time it takes for the entire completion to be generated. To plot both of these, I'm going to drop both of them onto the y-axis. There we go. The median time to first chunk, the median response time to completion. I'm going to save this as well and add it as latency over time. Something else we might be interested in is how much money we're spending. To do this, I'm going to create a new visualization. Let's change the chart type to line, take our total tokens, put on the y-axis, take our timestamp and put on the x-axis. Rather than the median over each bucket, let's take a cumulative sum, where within each bucket we take another sum of the total number of tokens being used. And so this gives us the cumulative number of tokens that we're using over time. Let's go ahead and save this. Call this our cumulative token spend. And there we go. We've created a dashboard which is able to show us an aggregate view of our status codes as well as how they've been changing over time, latency broken down by time to first chunk and time to completion, as well as our cumulative total spend.